Several years ago, my job had me relocate for about a year. It's something that I've done a few times for work, and each time the company offers to find me a place or gives me the option to find one on my own. I decided to just let them find me a place this time because I was really busy with work and didn't feel like the hassle of looking for a new house. They ended up giving me a pretty nice place in a city type of neighborhood. I liked the house and had no complaints about it at all. I quickly realized, though, that there seemed to be nobody living in the house next door to me. The lights were always off, and there was no cars in the driveway. The grass in the yard was also very overgrown. It was a bit of an eyesore to look at, but other than that, I really didn't care. I pretty much spent my time at work or just relaxing at home. One night, I got into my bedroom and was about to go to sleep when I glanced out my window. The window sort of lined up with the neighbor's window next door, and I noticed a man looking at me. We made eye contact for a split second, and then the man's head disappeared down into the dark room that he was in. This nearly gave me a heart attack because I was sure that nobody lived there. The man appeared to be somewhat old from what I had seen, but I really didn't get a great look at him. I didn't see anybody after that for about another week. But finally one day I saw an older man walk out of the front door to the side of the house. I watched him from my window as the man seemed to kind of just stare at the side of his house for a while, and then return back inside. I realized that I did in fact have a next door neighbor, but he just seemed to be kind of strange. I didn't see him much, but I occasionally saw him here and there over the next several weeks. He always seemed to be doing sort of strange things. One day I saw him go outside and walk into my yard. He appeared to just stare at my house for a couple of minutes. I almost went out and talked to him, but he kind of creeped me out, so I just watched him from the window. Eventually, he went back inside. The next day, I happened to see another one of my neighbors out getting mail, so I decided to go over and ask him about the man who lived next to me. But I was told that nobody lived in that house. My neighbor across the street told me that the house next door to me had been abandoned for almost 2 years. I got the chills when he said this. I told him what I had seen, and we both decided to call the police. They came and searched the property of the house next door, but didn't find anyone. I lived there for the rest of the year, and then I moved again. I never did see the man again, but sometimes I would think I heard noises coming from next door. I'm a female and recently graduated from college. This story happened to me last year when I first got my degree and started my real job. I moved into the city and got an apartment that I really liked. It was right near downtown and I could walk to lots of places. The apartment building itself was rather large and had many people living there on several floors, but it was very nice inside and came with furniture. I remember when I first got done moving in, my neighbor from across the hall came over and introduced himself as Carl. Right away, he kind of gave me the creeps. He just seemed a little bit off. He asked me a few questions about myself and then basically asked me out within 5 minutes of meeting. I politely said no, but he didn't seem too happy about it. Over the first few months of living there, he always seemed to leave his apartment at the same time as me. He would always say hi and ask me where I was going. I like when people are friendly, but the way he would say things was just borderline creepy, but I tried to be nice about it overall. Eventually, though, it just became too much, and I would kind of try to avoid him. Then one night, as I was eating in my living room by myself, I heard a small noise outside my door. I quietly got up and walked over to it, trying not to make a sound. I looked out at my peephole and saw Carl crouched down on the floor looking at my front door. I wasn't really sure what he was trying to do, if he was planning to open the door or if he was trying to eavesdrop on me, but it was very creepy either way. Finally, after about a minute, he left. This had become a little bit too much, and I considered reporting him or even moving. The next day, I had my friend over after work, and we hung out in my apartment for a bit. Then we both went out to the parking garage where we said goodbye. I went back up to my apartment after that. When I got back inside, I was getting some water when I heard a noise coming from the hallway. I couldn't tell exactly where it was coming from, so I walked over to see. I looked around but didn't really see anything at all. I even went into my bedroom and looked around. Then I knew I heard the sound of footsteps coming from inside my living room. so I ran to my bedroom door and shut it. Thankfully, it had a lock on it. I locked the door, then I heard footsteps coming towards it, and Carl's voice asked me to come out. I was silent and dialed 911 on my phone. Carl then tried to open the door, but once he realized it was locked, he called out saying he was strong and he knew he would be able to break the door down, so I should just come out. I didn't doubt that he could because it was a pretty weak door. With 911 on the phone, I opened my window and went for the fire escape. I tried to do it as quietly as I could. Once I got the window open and was going out, I heard Carl start shouting and banging on the door. I climbed out and was able to make it down. Then I ran across the street to a local supermarket. I waited there until the police showed up and arrested Carl. He had been able to sneak into my apartment because I had forgot to lock it when I went to the parking garage. This happened last fall. I live in a pretty normal neighborhood. Each house has about a half-acre lot, and most of the houses are 2 stories. One night, I was inside watching a show on Netflix. I got really into it and ended up staying up until almost 3 in the morning. Anyways, at some point, I went into the kitchen to get something to drink. I knew it was really late at this hour, and I casually looked out my window. As I did, I thought I saw my next-door neighbor Dan in his backyard. I looked closer and saw it was in fact Dan, and he was in his backyard digging. It wasn't a great angle, but that looked like it's what he was doing. It seemed strange all right, and I really didn't know Dan all that well. We had only spoken a handful of times briefly, but he seemed like a really nice guy, and I knew there was an explanation for it, so I just went back to my show. The next day, I happened to see Dan as I was leaving for work. I waved at him and he waved back at me. Me being the friendly, talkative guy that I am, I told Dan I had seen him digging in his yard overnight, and I asked him what he buried. I said it and meant it in a joking way and expected Dan to laugh it off, then explain some logical reason for the digging. But instead, Dan's smile disappeared off his face, and he told me he wasn't digging. He paused and then said he had thought he saw a fox in his yard, so he went out to investigate. I knew I had seen him digging for a fact, and I don't know why he would try to hide it like that. I left and went to work, feeling more suspicious about Dan. The next night, I once again got addicted to another show on Netflix. It was something that happened to me often. As I was watching this show very late, I suddenly heard the sound of my back door being opened from downstairs. Unfortunately, it was a door that I rarely locked. I got up, not sure which way to run. After a couple of seconds, I saw Dan in my house. He was making his way up the staircase. He said to me I needed to forget what I saw. I tried to reason with him, asking him what exactly it was he was doing, and I really didn't see anything. Dan told me he wanted to know everything that I saw. I immediately suspected the worst and was afraid he had killed someone or something. I told him I didn't know a thing. Dan then just took off and ran back down my stairs. He left, and once he was gone, I ran down and locked the door. I then called the police, of course. I heard a car screeching away and figured it had to be Dan leaving. When the police showed up, I told them everything. It wasn't until several days later that I got an explanation from police. Dan hadn't killed anybody, but he had stolen some really expensive software from a company he had been fired from. He'd taken it out to his yard and apparently was burying it. The whole thing still confuses me and creeps me out.